Hi, I'm Preston Williams, and welcome to another edition of Jazz Talk. Today on our show, we have a very special guest who needs no introduction. He has been on the scene for over 40 years and has worked with many greats from Elvin Jones to Art Blakey, McCoy Tyner, Stevie Wonder, Sun Ra, and Dave Holland, to name a few. He is a trombonist, educator, and composer. Please welcome to Jazz Talk, Mr. Robin Eubanks. How are you, sir? How you doing, man?
Pretty good, pretty good.
Good, good. Thanks so much for doing this interview. It's so good to have you on. Robin, as I said, you've been on the scene for, man, quite a while. You've made so much wonderful music. And of course, we know you as the great musician that you are, but we don't know too much about your humble beginnings. I understand that you are from Philadelphia.
Yeah.
Yeah. Tell us a little bit about your background, man, growing up in Philadelphia and, how you got involved in music.
Well, I get asked the question a lot, so I'm just trying to figure out a different way to answer it. But
Sure.
Basically, I grew up in a musical family. My mom's was taught in the Philadelphia school system, public school system, and I started playing trombone when I was like eight years old, in fourth grade or something like that, and it's just been music's just been all around me, and I guess I was hearing music before I was born. My mom was a church, the choir director at a church.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm sure when she was pregnant with me, I was all up against the piano in her belly.
Yeah.
And hearing music then. So it's just been a very natural kind of thing for me and people in our family.
Mm-hmm.
And I started playing, grew up playing funk and rock music. And then I just got into jazz. I didn't start playing jazz till I was like 20.
Okay.
I was playing in funk bands when I was like from 15 on, and then I just started trying to learn to play jazz so I could take better solos in our funk band because I sounded awful. And just kind of went to the record shop and just looked for something that had trombones on it, and saw a J.J. Johnson album because I had heard of him before. And an Art Blakey album had Curtis Fuller on it, and a Wayne Henderson was on the Jazz Crusaders record. And just started listening to that stuff. And the J.J. Johnson album scared me.
Really? Why is that?
Because he sounded so amazing.
Yeah.
This album called The Eminent J.J. Johnson with Clifford Brown and Jimmy Heath, and I think Kenny Clark was on it. And so the first song is called Turnpike on the first side. And when I heard it, I said, he sounds really good, but he's playing a valve trombone.
Yeah.
And I looked on the cover, and it was just a slide trombone. And I got a little scared. I said, wow, I'm not ready for this.
Right.
Put it away, went back to my Chicago and Blood, Sweat, and Tears records that had horns and stuff something that I could comprehend. And about a month later, I pulled it out and started listening to it again and said, wow, this is like the standard. This is what's possible on the trombone. I'd never heard anybody play a trombone like that. That's why I thought he was playing valves. And then I just started working on it and studying, and I remember hearing something about 2-5-1 chords, and I got a cassette player and got my brother Kevin to record. I told him to play these chords, and we would record them on the cassette player. And then we started trying to learn how to play lines over those chords. It was like before the Music -1 things, or the Band of the Box and the Jamie Aebersold kind of stuff they have nowadays. And so we just kind of learned how to do it just by doing it and listening and studying, and then started playing with bands, jazz bands in Philadelphia, and you know, a lot of people helped me all along the way. You know, Al Gray, who's a trombonist, used to play with Count Basie's band. His son Mike Gray played in another one of the local funk bands in the Germantown area of Philly, where I grew up.
Right.
And Al, when he came off the road, would grab us and have us put charts in front of us and have us reading music and learning standards and stuff like that. And you know, I didn't know what a standard was, but
yeah.
So, you know, people all along was helping. And of course, my mom was a big inspiration because she was, you know, just hearing, she used to give piano lessons on the weekend, in addition to playing, you know, choir director in the church. So I would hear music all the time. And then all the weekends she'd have like about 10 students over the weekend on Friday and Saturday. So I would
Now, Robin, I wanted to ask you a question about that real quick. I was reading that your mother was Kenny Barron's first piano teacher.
Yeah.
Wow, that's incredible, man.
Yeah. Kenny gave me a photo of my mom teaching him.
Oh, wow.
Little baby face. I think Kenny said he was about 15 or 12 or 15 or something. And this Kenny Barron's face with my mom there, and this little boy body and stuff. And my mom's brother is Ray Bryant.
Yeah.
So and Tommy Bryant, they both played in the Papa Joe Jones trio. And they were on the album Eternal Triangle with Dizzy Gillespie and Sonny Stitt. And so, you know, I have a good pedigree in our genes and everything. And then, you know, of course, my brother Kevin and Dwayne, and my cousins, Charles Eubanks used to play with Sonny Fortune, Dewey Redman, and David Eubanks, he played with Dexter Gordon, Leon Thomas. So there's a lot of family in our genes.
Yeah. You know, now I was going to ask you, Robin, in the early 80s, you made the move to New York, and you know, you were working with different people. Now, one of the things that I didn't know, I've had Cassandra Wilson and Greg Osby on the show. I didn't know that you were one of the pioneers of M-Bass, man. That was incredible. I didn't know that, and that was just some wonderful music all of you guys were playing. Steve Coleman, all of you guys, but you were sort of one of the pioneers of that, right?
Yeah, it was one of the founding members. Was there when we came up with the name and the whole concept and everything. Yeah, so it was a great time. It was around the mid '80s, and all of us were in Brooklyn at the time, and trying to come up with some different kind of music to play other than playing the jazz standards all the time.
Right.
Just combining all the music we grew up with, and we all had similar backgrounds and similar ideas. Terry Lynn Carrington was doing it, and also, you know, a lot of really talented young musicians, and it was a really great period. Jerry Allen and Dave Holland got in on it, and eventually came on it. That's how I actually kind of met Dave.
Now, how'd you hook up, man, with Sun Ra? I was like surprised that you played with Sun Ra, man. What was that like?
Well, Sun Ra was based in Philadelphia.
Okay.
In Germantown. And so I guess just through word of mouth, once I started playing jazz, somebody asked me if I wanted to come to one of the rehearsals and stuff. So, and it was like 5 minutes from my house, really. Wow. So on Morton Street in Germantown. So it was very different and interesting. I really had a lot of respect for him as a musician and everything, and he was definitely a different kind of cat.
Yeah. Yeah, he definitely was. But, I was just thinking about Philadelphia, man. So many great musicians come out of there, from Lee Morgan, McCoy Tyner, Stanley Clark. I mean, I can just go on and on and on. Now, of course, you had that long period. You played with Dave Holland for what, like 15 or 20 years. And I guess you guys still work together periodically, right?
Well, I haven't worked with him for a while now,
Okay.
but we still talk. He called me a few weeks ago, checking up on me with the see how I was doing during the pandemic and everything. But we're still very good friends. But I
Yeah.
haven't. Kevin's been playing with him the last several years, but I haven't played with him in several years now. It's been a while.
That music that you guys did was unbelievable, man. Prime Directive and was it what goes around? I mean, everything that you guys did, that big band was just tight. I love everything that you guys did.
I've been trying to coerce him into doing a reunion tour.
Yeah, that'd be nice.
I think it'd be nice too. I just have to get him to think so.
Yeah. Yeah. So how'd you get to work, man, with McCoy Tyner? I think you did some stuff with this big band, and oh boy, McCoy's something else. Just had his bass player on the other day, Avery Sharp, who worked with him for a number of years. But how'd you get to work with McCoy, man?
I used to go see him play all the time when he played when he played in Philly. He was one of the first people that I got into for playing jazz, because I was just listening to fusion, and I was in a modulation orchestra and all this odd meter, up tempo,
right,
high energy kind of fusion rock stuff. And I went to see him one time in Philadelphia at this, I think it was called the Bijou Cafe, and he really impressed me a lot.
Yeah.
I was on the front row, and my head was like under the body of the piano, and I was like seeing colors coming out of the piano. And,
wow.
And what it really did for me was the same kind of energy that I got from hearing all the electric fusion bands I got from hearing an acoustic jazz band. And I was like, oh, wow, it doesn't have to be electric. That's really what got me into studying, listening to acoustic jazz. It was he played with McCoy. We listened to McCoy's music and going to see him play every time I had a chance in Philadelphia, because I was still living in Philly then.
Right.
And when I moved to New York, he was, I used to go see him play in New York also. But when he started putting his big band together, and Steve Toure, who's a good friend of mine, another trombonist, got me on the big band, and I became friends with McCoy, and he did some arrangements for the big band, and we recorded on the first album and did some tours and stuff. So it was great.
Amazing. One of the things that I like, I guess early in your career, man, you work with Art Blakey. I was like, wow. And I think you were like, what, the music director or something like that of that group?
Yeah. During the year I was a music director.
What was it like playing with Art Blakey, man?
It was great. It was, it was the first time that I got to go all over the place, because we used to go to, I played with him for like a year and a half or 2 years or something like that. And it was during the heyday of the jazz scene. So we used to play it in New York all the time at Sweet Basil's. We did New Year's gigs, and we play there 1 or 2 weeks at a time, and traveled to Europe countless times. And
wow.
we would go to Europe for like 6 weeks or 8 weeks. And so he kind of really broke me in terms of what the jazz scene was like. And then after playing with him, a lot of people, I guess, started playing with a lot of other people, but it was great playing with Art. It was still, friends of mine that I played with when I was in the band. We're still good friends. And we're still doing stuff that, music that features him. I just did an album with Ralph Peterson.
Yeah, great drummer. Yeah.
Messenger Legacy.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody on the band is about 15 of us that used to play with Art, and a couple of people that hadn't played with Art, but everybody played with Art. And I did composition and arrangement to that project. And I'm doing another, because his centennial year was last year. So there was a lot of touring with Art Blakey 100-year centennial. So
Wow.
and then I'm doing a gig next week. Actually, my first gig since March 14th.
Ooh, since this COVID hit. Wow.
Yeah,
Wow.
I haven't done a gig in 4 months.
Wow, man.
So,
Now, I was going to ask you also, you also hooked up with Elvin Jones, one of the other great drummers, man. I don't even know what to say about Elvin. What was that experience like playing with Elvin?
incredible. He was my favorite drummer of all time.
Yeah, yeah.
And it was just amazing just to stand right next. I used to stand next to him and just watch him so closely, and I couldn't understand. I mean, I was in the band for about a year or something,
Mm-hmm.
and a half maybe, and I still couldn't figure out what he was doing.
Right.
I noticed a few different little things that he was doing, trying to explain how he had that sound that he had and this flow that he had with the rhythm and the drums. And I asked him I said, how did you come up with this? How do you do what you do? And he said, I don't know either. But I know he told me he used to sing the bass line of the song in his head a lot, so that, because during his solos, he had a kind of flow with the rhythm.
Mm-hmm.
And just the sound that he got, like nobody else ever.
Right.
So
yeah, polyrhythmic, man. The guy was
just amazing just to be on stage with him and stand right. I mean, I was like, 2 feet, 1 foot away from him, right off his hi-hat when we used to do gigs.
Yeah, yeah. Hey, man, you also, man, you've worked with so many people. We talked about Jerry Allen. You also, you work with her, and I love that recording she did of The Gathering. You're on that one. God rest her soul. We lost her, and then just lost Wallace this year too. And you also did some stuff with Stevie Wonder, which is great. What was it like working with Stevie, man?
He was like one of my big inspirations. It was a strange kind of situation. It was a tour for the album, The Secret Life of Plants.
Mm-hmm.
And which he used a synclavier, which was a brand new instrument at the time, to produce all these orchestral sounds, and he kind of orchestrated. Actually, that album was a soundtrack for a movie.
Okay.
Called The Secret Life of Plants. So, I mean, he was blind, but he had a lot of vision. And a lot of his songs had or titles had the thing about vision.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think he had an album called Visions.
Inner Visions. Yeah. Early stuff.
And he had a song called Visions.
Yeah.
Visions of My Mind or something like that. And he had Music of My Mind. He was really interesting. And he was putting together an orchestra to do a tour, but some people actually kind of took advantage of him and told him that they already had a black orchestra called the National Afro-American Philharmonic Orchestra, NAPO, but there was no such thing. They just kind of threw it together because to appeal to him so they could get the gig. And it was really not a professional organization, musically or business-wise. And it sounded awful. I was embarrassed for Steve.
Really? Wow.
But he was going to cancel the tour because it sounded so, cancel us because it sounded so bad. But to his credit, he used us on a few gigs, like in Detroit, and we played Madison Square Garden a couple of times, and we did several gigs on the East Coast, and he used another real orchestra on the on some of the other gigs. But I had a lot of respect for him for doing. I mean, he only did it probably because it was a orchestra of Black musicians, even though it wasn't really an organized orchestra. They just kind of threw it together to make in time to get the rehearsal. They didn't vet the musicians very well at all.
Yeah, yeah.
But I
Wow.
was lucky enough to be there.
Oh, I'm sure, man. That's
And it was
awesome.
amazing to hear him. And I mean, I had tears in my eyes on the first gig. It was because, and he came out, they did some kind of thing on his voice. So he came out doing the little like fingertips. And so made
Yeah.
the voice sound like it was an octave high. Made it sound like a little kid and stuff. And he had this one segment where he played just piano and him singing. And like every song was like your favorite Stevie Wonder song, all his ballads. It was incredible.
Magic.
So it was an unforgettable experience. And I got to see him a little bit later when I was teaching at Oberlin. They opened up the jazz building, and Stevie was one of the special guests, and he came to we played a concert with him for the opening of the jazz building at Oberlin. And he had a special dinner that one night, and then on the campus they found a restaurant and closed it down and put paper up around the windows, and he had a little private dinner with just 10 people. I was fortunate enough to be one of those people.
Oh, wow.
Leon Dorsey, who was a bass player who actually played with Art Blakey with me for a little while. He was good friends with Stevie. He's the one that got him to come to Oberlin. And so I got a chance to be at this special dinner. So I told him, I said, I played in that Secret Life of Plants orchestra. And he's like, oh, you did that? He was on that. And yeah, and it was interesting because he holds your hand while he talks to you, and he like feels your hand while he's talking to you, and
Yeah.
get some kind of connection to you. So, but it was a great experience. I mean, I got to talk with him for about 20 minutes and just one-on-one. So it was really amazing.
One of the geniuses. Now, speaking of Oberlin, I wanted to talk to you about your work. You're an educator, and you taught for a number of years too, as well as Berkeley. Is that something you enjoy doing, or are you still doing that? For instance, a lot of instructors are teaching online now. Are you still doing that, Robin?
I'm doing like workshops and things. I retired from Oberlin. I taught there for 20 years to get back to get back to touring.
Yeah.
And playing, and it kind of took me off the scene a little bit. I was still working with the SF Jazz Collective while I was teaching, but there was a lot of other gigs I couldn't do because I had a time or requirement to be there. So I wanted to get back to playing with other musicians and touring around the world again. And now teaching is the only gig that they have.
Yeah, man. Yeah.
The touring around the world has ceased for the moment. So,
right.
But I'm really involved doing other stuff. So I'm really trying to take full advantage of this time. So it's not I'm doing fine.
Good.
Fortunately, I was fortunate to save money, and I had savings and investments and things. So I'm cool.
That's good. That's good to know, Robin. Yeah, a lot of musicians are hurt. You were speaking about fusion early, and I think you mentioned Mahavishnu Orchestra. I just had Billy Cobham on the show yesterday.
Really?
Yeah, he lives in Switzerland, man. I had to get up
Yeah,
at 7 a.m.
Geneva.
He told me, he says, Preston, he said, this COVID-19 ain't going away. He said, this is with us for the rest of our lives. He said, you're going to have to just find different ways to do things. I mean, he's still teaching online and doing different things, but yeah, interesting guy. We had a long conversation. But also, man, you work with Barbra Streisand. What was it like working with her? When I was looking at your background, I'm like, that doesn't seem like somebody Robin would work with. Interesting.
Yeah, I did lots of different things. I just got hired to do the gig,
Yeah.
and and it was nice. It was a really interesting experience. Marvin Hamlish was the
Hmm.
conductor, and got to play with some really good friends of mine who are trombone players, like this Jim Pugh, who's a great lead trombone player and just a good jazz trombonist in general, and Keith O'Quinn and Dave Taylor. So it was a really good section, and I had it was a lot of fun doing it, and it was like her first touring in 20 years almost or something like that. She
Yeah.
she had for some, she had this kind of stage fright or something.
I heard about that. Yeah.
I mean, she had teleprompters with the words everywhere. Like everywhere she looked, there'd be the words. She tried to play the words were there.
Right.
So and and everywhere we traveled, she had her living room with her. So we traveled with her furniture for her. So they set up every dressing room so it looked like her living room.
Yeah.
So I mean, I guess when you got money, like you can roll like that. But it was an interesting experience, and there was a lot of good musicians in the band. So I had a good time.
Yeah.
I like doing all kinds of different stuff, as you can probably tell.
Yeah, man. You're definitely seriously. You like I said, you come from a musical family, and just your background. I was just very impressed with all the people that you've worked with. When I saw Sun and Barbara Streisand, I'm like, wow. I didn't know Robin did that.
I
Uh,
played on some of the first rap records too, on Sugar Hill Records.
Wait a minute. Come on, Robin. Robin, you got to school me on this one. Wait a minute. Are you serious, man?
Yeah, like in the late '70s. I was
Wow.
playing with on Grandmaster Flash and this album song called Eighth Wonder.
Yeah.
Played on that, and Apache, and there's several of them. We used to do those recording sessions in Inglewood, in New Jersey. It's for Sugar Hill Records.
Wow, I did not know that, man. That's wow, something else I learned about you. That's incredible. I saw your brother recently. I was with him. He was in Maryland back in February at the jazz festival here in Maryland at Rockville, and just chatted with him a little bit. It's really really great stuff. And then boom, right after that, the COVID-19 hit, like in March or so. But do you write a lot? Do you compose a lot?
Yeah.
Really? Now, let me ask you a question. I'm just curious, some of the things that you're working on, and I'm sure you being a musical individual, you probably got a lot of things going on in your mind, but any special projects that you're working on that we're going to be able to see this year, once you go back out?
Possibly, because I'm by myself, I'm working on like doing some solo stuff.
Oh, man.
Because I'm using like electronics on my horn, and it's getting different sounds and loops and percussion pads and all kinds of stuff. So I'm put together like a solo project where it keeps the overhead down. And me and Kevin are talking about doing some stuff, and he's 3,000 miles away in Los Angeles right now.
Yeah.
Talking about doing some things, and I'm touring with some bands in Europe, and I'm just wide open to all kinds of stuff. And I'm still doing some stuff with Ralph's Peterson's Messenger's Legacy group when they do some things, and I get called to do all kinds of different stuff. So we'll see how it goes. Right now, who knows when the next live gig will be. Well, I'm doing a quote unquote live gig this weekend with another Art Blakey tribute band, and
Wow.
Valerie Ponomarev, and on trumpet, and Don Braden, Lonnie Plaxico.
Oh, wow.
And Carl Allen and Zakai Curtis. And it's going to be part of the Litchfield Jazz Festival, but they're going to live stream it. So there'll just be like a handful of people who are working on the festival and in the production. sitting out there, so it won't be like a real audience, but it'll be the first gig I played with another group of musicians since March 14th, which was a gig with my band in Philadelphia.
That'll be nice, man. I look so forward to seeing that. There's a place here in Baltimore I'm sure you're familiar with. I'd love to see you come down and perform once this is over. Keystone Corner.
Yeah, yeah.
Keystone Corner with Todd Barking. Yeah.
Good friends with Todd. Todd went to Oberlin.
Really?
Yeah, yeah. We've talked about that many times. And he got me on the Freddie Cole record, who we just lost recently.
Yeah.
And I composed a little interlude and then arranged 2 songs on the recording with strings and stuff like that. So it was great. And I used to do the jazz cruise. I've done it well, they didn't have it this year, or they're not having it next year, but I did it for like the last 5 years. And Freddie Cole used to be on that a lot. So I used to see Freddie on there, and I really gonna miss him.
Yeah, a legend. You do anything, Robin, with film? You ever write any stuff for film?
Small independent kind of film. A couple of them I did something like some student projects, or some friends of mine who were doing some shorts and things, but not to the extent that I would like to. I would love to get into doing some of this. And now I have time to really learn to do all kinds of stuff. So it's interesting that Billy said that this is going to be.
Oh yeah. He said, Preston, he said it's not going away.
I'm in touch with him sporadically on online. We send some posts back to each other, back and forth to each other.
Yeah.
On Facebook and things like that. And he's been a huge influence on me. Also.
Without question. We were talking about that because I had Chick Corea on a couple weeks back, and the story goes, Chick took Stanley with him to see Mahavishnu Orchestra, and when they saw them, just blew their minds. And I think that was the beginning of Return to Forever. That band was so powerful.
I was doing a gig. I did a gig in France, in Antibes. I think it was several years ago. And Chick had kind of put together back the reunion of the Return to Forever band.
Right.
So, and I'm friends with Lenny White, and Stanley was there. And Stanley went to the same college that I went to in Philadelphia.
Okay.
And I told him that about when I was in, I guess maybe I was still in high school, maybe I was in college, I forget. But I went to a concert at Princeton with the Mahavishnu Orchestra and Return to Forever.
Wow.
And Lenny said, "You were at that gig?" And he told Stanley, said, "He was at that concert." That's the only time they ever played together.
Wow. And you were there. That's incredible.
I happened to be there. It was unbelievable night for me.
Did you ever catch Weather Report when Jaco was with him, Jaco Pastorius?
No, I didn't, unfortunately.
Yeah. And Stanley had told me a story. He said he and Jaco were good friends. People thought they were bass rivals. They were actually going to do a tour together. And then Jaco got sick, the mental illness and everything.
Right.
Shame. But listen, man, I want to thank you so much for being on Jazz Talk. I love you, love your music. You're a good brother. And it's just been a pleasure talking to you today. Hang on, I'm about to close out the show. Okay. Well, you've heard it from Mr. Robin Eubanks. And as the saying goes, if the music grooves and makes you move, it must be jazz. I'm Preston Williams with Jazz Talk signing off. Peace.